Yo, welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, check out the new music video I directed for Nate Rose over on his channel. I got the link in the bio. That's kind of what we're gonna go over today. Pretty much the color grading process, how I went into making the black and white images. High contrast, crispy, but most of all, making the film noir look without the right tools to do so. If you wanna see the video first, check the link in the description, it's there. Also, join my Discord, the link is there as well. I do all the behind the scenes. I actually went live several times while editing this video from beginning to end, often in the Discord. So if you wanna be a part of that behind the scenes access, just join the Discord, it's all you have to do. Pretty easy to set up, I'll see you there, but let's go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, so when I'm working right in Davinci Resolve, the first thing I'm doing is I'm usually going to see what clips I want, this and that, and once I get all those clips in there, and I start assembling the project, I maybe throw some color on to see what it looks like, this and that, but I usually don't really tackle the color until I have a locked edit, and which pretty much means that the edit is not going to change after this point at all. And that's always where you want to be at before you really start doing the nitty gritty of the color, and that's where we're at for this project. So I already reset some of the shots, just so we can go into some of the things that I did, some of the techniques that maybe you don't know about, that I really took into this project, like power windows or different curvatures, huma versus saturation, this and that, really trying to bring out the contrast of these images. So let's jump into our first one. So with the first one, we had this violinist. She had really what noir is really known for is having very high controlled lighting, meaning that like certain areas of the face will be cut off and you just see the eyes or you just see the lips. And the reason they did that, and the reason like you see a lot of like weird, it's a very niche look, is because they didn't have the budgets or didn't have the resources at the time to make these incredibly well lit scenes. So what they did was they just like used shadows to their advantage. Obviously they were shooting in black and white, so shadows look really good, and they just made the cinematography work for that time. And that's what we did for this shoot. I didn't have the lights, the stuff to cut off lights at a certain area. I actually started recreating these things in post myself, so I'll show you. First of all, when I'm going into black and white, the difference between that and color is I immediately just take on the saturation. I don't add any black and white LUTs or anything like that, because that's just not my vibe for black and white. It's a pretty basic by design color grade, so it's like just bring down the saturation. Now this is very drastically different from the image that I want to see. This is very low contrast. Now if you're going for a low contrast look, maybe a couple more tweaks and you're good to go. We're going for a high contrast black and white look. We want to see nice blacks with a very contrasting against the highlights of the image, so that's what we're going for. So I'll start with the lift. I'll start bringing in the shadows to a point in which I feel like they are comfortable, but not too much. Somewhere around that range is good for me. Then I'll bring the brights up somewhere around, like not too bright. She's kind of pale in the face a little bit, so you don't want to bring it up too much. That's just my personal opinion. I actually might just keep it kind of around that quarter to 1,000 range right there. Looking at my histogram, making sure that stays consistent. And then I'll go ahead and, since we're not making any more, color correction adjustments, it's black and white. Let's go ahead and move on to our next node. Let's see. All right, so then that's when I start bringing like the contrast into the image. And the contrast is so important, whether you're shooting in color or black and white, it's so important. But in black and white, I think it's even more important because it's the difference between what type of vibe you're going for and not. High contrast black and white is very different from low contrast black and white. It's a different feel you get. It's almost either the difference between happy and dark, you know what I mean? So first of all, let's label these nodes real quick. Let's see. We're going to label this correction, and then we're going to label this contrast. Sweet. And that's when I really just get into my curve, and I make an S curve to start off with. So I just bring those shadows down, then I go to my highlights and bring them up a little bit, and then I'll mess with the middle. But let's leave the middle alone for a second, and let's see if we can get this contrast going in here. So I just kind of play around until I get an image that I like. I'm gonna bring the midtones down a bit, bring the highlights back down with it, because I want to create like a weird muddy look. And then in an instance like this, like it's still not really as contrasty as I would like. So what I'll do is I'm actually gonna bring down our lift some more, because I want to be in there. I might. And when we're shooting in black and white, like it's also like nighttime, so I'm not afraid to also just kind of let the lower end of the blacks bleed into like the background. What's behind her is just literally just black. Let that be crushed a little bit for the sake of her face being a little bit more contrasty. Now we're looking at look at that contrast node doing its job. right? Once I bring those blacks down and let it work, it really did its job. So we're looking at close to where the image, very close to where the image. You can get a lot when you're shooting black and white. You can get a lot of where you want to be in the first couple of adjustments. But what can you do to take it to the next level? And I think, first of all, let's take these back up a little bit, just a little bit, just so you don't have too much in there. But I think, first of all, when we're doing noir, shadows and intention to where you want your light to be is so important. So I want to create artificial shadows. And this may sound like, what? How do you do that? You know, there's a lot of things, softwares that do it. You know, you got compositing softwares that can create artificial lights. That's something we're not doing here. We're doing a very, very basic version of that. And that's what power windows. If you're not familiar with power windows, it's pretty much just a mask that you can create to do certain things. But in our instance, we're going to use it as kind of like the radio filter equivalent in like Lightroom, where we're adding a filter or some sort of like filter that we can do certain adjustments to, softness, etc., to make it look like something else. And that's what we're going to do here in a second. So I'm actually going to add let's do just a normal rectangle. And so pretty much if I was to connect this to an alpha end point, then that would be a mask. It would be a rectangle mask, but we're not going to do that. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to bring down the offset, which is going to bring down the exposure like that. And we're going to zoom out a little bit, and we're going to make sure that the bottom and the top of our image is covered, good to go. I'm actually going to start dissolving that a little bit like that, so it looks more like a shadow. And I might rotate it a little bit too, because if you look at the way the light's hitting her face, it's coming from above. So we want that to kind of emulate the shape of her face. So we'll rotate it down like that, and let's just not let it hit the eyes too much, so it's kind of doing its job, looking like straight up. Oh, straight up, just there we go. There we go. I'm digging it. Okay, so we're getting close. Let's see what it looks like before and after. That's an artificial shadow right there. Let's bring down just like the highlights a little bit in that, so it looks. And then actually, I might just go ahead and bring some more lift into it, and then bring the highlights back up and do a lift instead, so we can contour the cheek a little bit. See that whole vibe going on. Let's bring it back some more and diffuse it some more, so it looks a little bit softer. Bring it back in. Look at that. We're already seeing a drastic difference in the contrast, and it looks like we're already highlighting the eyes, so it looks like it was intentional. Now, like, I mean, if we look at the difference between those two, it's like the lighting is completely changed. It's way darker, way more spookier, which is what we're going for, like kind of a spooky, like espionage type vibe. It's dope. We love it. Mean it. I love it. So let's see. Just want to check something real quick. Alrighty. All right, so I like this image a lot, and there's not too much I would do to it at this point, except add some grain. Because if we make this full screen, for instance, let's see, it's already gonna have partial grain just because it's shot at a higher ISO. But the camera has dual pixel native. It's dual native pixel ISO. So for the most part, it's gonna do pretty good. But I'm gonna add my own grain as well. I'm gonna do this one. This is pretty much the grain I had created for this project file. This is the grain I did a custom reversal black and white Kodak grain to it. But pretty much what that's gonna do is just really bring to life the noir look. So look, if I turn this off and on, it's really just like very subtle, not way too much, just enough to bring something. For me, like grain in the shadows is an example of bad exposure. I think we as filmmakers associate grain in the shadows as over or underexposing your image. But grain in the midtones and the highlights, mostly in the highlights, we see as like really crispy and just kind of like a vibe. And that's kind of what I was going for. And look, just those 4 simple nodes, and we have a nice black and white image. Before, after, high contrast. And the little people, like, you know, when I was first starting, I would have done this and been happy with it. It's just this little bit of extra detail, I feel like that really brings to life the image. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our next one. We're gonna do something similar here. This is Nate. And the reason I want to try this one is because it's a little bit more area of space to brighten up, right? We got some more work to do. It's just not super close. You don't want to do too much black over here. We would just want to darken up his face here. So let's do the same thing on our first node. We're not going to label these because you already kind of got the essence of what that is. So we're going to just bring up our highlights a little bit just to get the exposure we like. Also, just take down the saturation. Let's add a node. Cool. Let's do some contrast in this beat. Like that. All right, now we're looking good. We're looking decent. You don't do too much. I'm gonna bring down his midtones a little bit. Let's find a better image to look at too. Something like this. There we go. I dig that. Already we have something nice that I can definitely get behind. I definitely think this image is dope. Okay, so let's see. Add another one. This is what we're going to do our power window again. So this is gonna be a little different. I'm gonna add a circle one this time, and I'm going to track it to a certain aspect around his head. So like around here. Yeah. All right, and then I'm gonna go into my tracker. I'm gonna track his head because Davinci Resolve tracker is crazy. And if you haven't used it already, pretty much once you add the window, you go over to your tracker panel right here, it's gonna only track that window because it just associates whatever you added to it, and it starts to use it as a tracker. So I'm gonna hit track forward first. Okay, that must be one adjustment clip that I'm editing on, I'm not sure. Anyways, we'll go backwards. We already got that. Like that, cool. And look, now our power window is tracked properly to his head. What are we gonna do now? We're gonna bring down, like we did before, we're gonna bring down our gain or our offset and then really just knock out that whole, now it's gonna be high, it's gonna look a little weird at first. That looks a little weird, so what we need to do is we need to diffuse it. We need to take this and we need to, pretty much, I like to maximize it at this point. I might even make it a little bit bigger so it falls off more. And then let's see. Let's go back into it. Let's go this way and just make it a little bit shorter on the top and bottom so it looks more controlled. And then let's reset this and then bring down the shadows a little bit. So it's gonna bring more contrast into the beard. It's gonna look dope. That's dope. That's fire. Okay. So look at that, before and after. Now it's still a little dark in these certain areas. It still looks weird. So we're gonna bring it down even more. Let that softness on the edges really bleed into it. Let's see the before and after. Okay, now I'm feeling it a little more. Let's see. There we go. You know, I'm gonna try something actually. You know what? Let's scratch that because I think that's cool. So let's turn it off and add another one and try something else. We're gonna do another square one again and see what this looks like. So let's go, bam. Let's zoom out. We're gonna add like this vibe. Go like this. We're gonna bring down the blacks. We're gonna create another shadow. We're gonna make it so it looks like a shadow is just on that side of the screen. I'm actually gonna go into the curves and just do them that way as well because those tend to be more contrasty like that. Not too much on the highlights though. There we go. All right, and let's find our windows again. Bring that back like that. And let's zoom in and see. See, I like that a little bit more. Now, it might be messing with this apart a little bit, so we might just bring up the black so it's just not crushing that over there. Like that. That's how I like it. I like it the most like that, I think. Let's turn it off and on. If we full screen it, I'm digging it, bro. It's just doing a little bit more. It's just that little extra. And then we're gonna add that grain again. Let's do grain. Sweet. That is dope. I love it. Let's save, because you never know. All right, and we're gonna do one more clip. This is gonna be one where it's a landscape. We're not messing with too many faces, so you can kind of see the difference in between those types of shots. So let's see, so we got clips. We're gonna go over to this one. This is one of my favorite shots of the whole video, and I wanna show you kind of how I went into it. So first of all, saturation, let's bring it down. Let's correct it, make it as high contrast as we want. I'm gonna bring up the brights a lot on this one. That way we can have that high contrast already. I mean, I already like the image. It might look very similar to what we have in the video already, but it's not quite there yet. Let's add another one. And we're going to add some, some curvature to this. Bring some of that contrast even more down. Bam. There we go. Now it's looking decent. Let's bring the midtones down a little bit. Yo, I'm feeling that though. Oh shoot. The sun's right in my eyes, guys. Sorry for the, the sun's right in my eyes, guys. Sorry for that glare, but I think it was kind of dope. Okay, so let's add another one. So look, this image is something that I would be decently happy with. But for the most part, the devil's in the details, so we're gonna try to bring something more alive into this. So we're gonna add another window. The windows are my best friend in this video because it just adds those details. And we're going to try and make it happen over here and just bring down that, see that? We're gonna try to bring some more out of this right here. that. Like that. Nice fit. So that's going to do only damage in that area, and that's when I'm going to bring up this thing I like. It's called mid-tone / detail. What this does is it's going to just add some like texture to it, kind of like almost like the sharpener or like the structure thing in Instagram. I know most people are familiar with that, so pretty much just going to do some damage in that area. It's going to dirty it up a little bit, and we're kind of looking for a dirtier texture image in this overall anyway. So let's bring that down. Look at the subtle difference that makes. Very subtle, but it does some damage. I like it. We're going to add another layer, and we're going to add that grain one. And look at that. Let's see the before and after. Let's do the before and after the grain. Very subtle. Before and after the texture, contrast. That, obviously that's the we're bringing on the saturation. So anyways guys, a pretty simple video. I didn't want to go too advanced because it is black and white, so there's not much to dig into here. Black and white for me is a little bit easier to grade, especially when you have the proper lighting and it's noir, so it's meant to look high contrast, etc. But if you would like to see more advanced color grading tutorials, which I would be more than happy to do, please let me know in the comments. I have some other stuff I would love to chat about in terms of color grading that is way more advanced and really shows, I think, what it means to be like as detailed as possible when it comes to the grading process. But please check out the video by Nate Rose, by myself. It's out now, and if you would like to hear more about it, just let me know and I might just make another video. All right guys, until next time, peace.